Alright, first up, we're hightailing it to Hatta, where rugged mountains meet crystal clear waters. Imagine kayaking across the Hatta Dam, the sun glinting off the water, and these massive mountains just rising up around you. And then there's the Hatta Heritage Village, a trip back in time to traditional Emirati life. We're talking ancient buildings, mosques, and narrow, winding streets. Of course, no trip to Hatta is complete without some adventure, right? So we're hitting the Hatta mountain bike trail. And for the truly fearless, there's zorbing at the Hatta Wadi Hub. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it is. Next up, we're venturing deep into the empty quarter, to a place called Liwa Oasis. Picture this. Towering sand dunes stretching as far as the eye can see, the sun turning the sand into a sea of gold. We're talking about conquering those dunes with some serious dune bashing, the 4x4 bouncing and swerving, adrenaline pumping. We're visiting the Liwa forts, ancient structures that have stood for centuries, silent guardians of the desert. And speaking of guardians, we can't forget the camels, maybe even taking a camel trek through the dunes. And at night, camping out under the stars, the Milky Way stretched out above you like a celestial canvas. Hold on tight, because we're headed to the highest peak in the UAE, Jebel Jais. This ain't just a mountain, it's an adventure playground. We're talking about the Jebel Jais via Ferrata, this insane climb with cables and ladders bolted into the side of the mountain. The views from up there? Mind-blowing. But if that's not enough to get your heart racing, there's always the world's longest zip line. And as the sun sets, painting the sky in 1,000 shades of orange and purple, you realize that sometimes the most breathtaking views are the ones that take your breath away. Chapter 4. Al Ain, Oasis of History. From the mountains, we journey to Al Ain, a city where history whispers from every corner. We're talking about stepping back in time at the Al Ain Oasis, this ancient network of date palm plantations fed by a complex irrigation system. And speaking of museums, the Al Ain National Museum is a must-see. We're talking about artifacts, exhibits, and stories that bring the past to life, painting a vivid picture of the region's rich heritage. And the food? We're talking about al-hariz, al-majbouz, dishes that are bursting with flavor and history. Chapter 5. Fujairah, where the mountains meet the sea. Get ready to feel the sand between your toes, because we're headed to Fujairah, where the rugged Hajar Mountains meet the sparkling waters of the Gulf of Oman. First stop, the Al-Bidya Mosque, the oldest mosque in the UAE. And speaking of history, the Fujairah Fort is another must-see. But Fujairah's not just about history, it's also a paradise for water lovers. We're talking about diving in the crystal-clear waters, exploring vibrant coral reefs, and maybe even coming face-to-face with a sea turtle or two. Chapter 6. Sir Bani Yas Island, a wildlife wonderland. Next up, we're hopping on a boat and sailing to Sir Bani Yas Island, a true oasis of wildlife and luxury. We're talking about hopping on a guided safari and seeing herds of gazelle grazing peacefully, giraffes stretching their necks, and maybe even catching a glimpse of the elusive Arabian oryx. Chapter 7. Khor Fakkan Coastal Charm and Ancient Wonders. Get ready to be wowed by Khor Fakkan, a hidden gem nestled along the UAE's east coast. We're talking about standing in awe of the Khor Fakkan Amphitheater, a modern marvel that blends seamlessly into the surrounding mountains. And while you're in the area, you can't miss the Al Rabi Tower hike. The panoramic views from the top are worth every drop of sweat. But Khor Fakkan isn't just about breathtaking views, it's also about diving into the local culture. And when you're ready for a dip in the ocean, head to Shark Island for some epic diving or snorkeling. Next up, we're venturing into the heart of the desert to explore the Sharjah Desert Park, a sprawling reserve dedicated to protecting the region's unique flora and fauna. We're talking about coming face-to-face with Arabian wolves, watching majestic desert eagles soar overhead, and maybe even spotting a rare sand cat. It's an experience that'll transport you back in time, to the days when caravans crossed these sands carrying spices, silks, and stories. All right, we can't talk about the UAE without mentioning Dubai, right? But we're not talking about towering skyscrapers and luxury shopping malls. We're going back to Dubai's roots, to the Dubai Creek, the lifeblood of this vibrant city. We're talking about hopping on an abra, a traditional wooden boat, and cruising down the creek, watching as the city's past and present collide. And for a truly authentic experience, head to the Spice Souk, where the air is thick with the aroma of exotic spices, incense, and perfumes. Last but not least, we're venturing to the Al Marmoum Desert Conservation Reserve, a vast expanse of protected desert that's home to a wealth of wildlife and cultural treasures. We're talking about witnessing the thrill of a camel race, these majestic creatures thundering across the sand. But Al Marmoum is more than just a racetrack. It's a place to immerse yourself in the Bedouin way of life. And as you sit there, sipping on sweet milky tea, watching the sun set over the dunes, you'll realize that sometimes the most authentic experiences are the ones that take you furthest from the beaten path. So there you have it, guys. 10 incredible destinations that prove the UAE is so much more than just skyscrapers and cityscapes. We've pushed our limits, embraced the unknown, and come away with memories that will last a lifetime. So what are you waiting for? Pack your bags, book your tickets, and get ready to discover the magic of the UAE. Peace out.